Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Environmental Coffee House. Hi, Jen.
Hey Sandy, how are you? You doing
Well,
good? You garden today?
oh my gosh, yes, I am. Yes, that's why the hat's on because the hair's a mess. And yes,
Uh,
yes, yes. But we have a nice start to tonight. We
we
have
do.
a surprise. Yeah, we're going to show the fruits of your labor. Yes, we are. Yes, we are. We have a lot of news, some research, but we are going to start out with a lovely view of Jennifer's place, and she's going to tell us what each picture is and how beautiful they are. So, Jen, should we get started with I mean, we can say hi to everybody, but as you join, we're going to do this beautiful flower show. How's that?
Yeah,
All
yeah,
right.
let's do our
So
flower show.
let's do our flower show and let's go for this one. Narrate and tell me what this is.
All right. Pull that down just a little bit so you can see that
Just a little bit.
bloom at
Okay.
the top. There we go. And these are Colorado
Oh.
Columbines. And I've got several benches of these Columbines, and they're so pretty and they bloom all summer long. They're just lovely
Whoops.
flowers.
How did I lose it?
That's okay.
They're beautiful, Jennifer. They're just
Yeah.
gorgeous. Oh, all right. We'll go
Okay.
to the next one. They are absolutely gorgeous. Next.
Okay, I've got a
Oh,
bunch of irises. Pull that down just a little bit so we can
look at
see it.
that purple. Look at that purple.
There you
Oh
go.
my
Yeah,
God, look at that purple. Ah,
there you go.
flowers are just, they're just visual,
Yeah.
visual.
There was a little
Hmm.
rain shower, and I took all these pictures right after the rain shower, so the flowers all have raindrops on them, which makes them kind of sparkly.
Yeah, they are. They're gorgeous. Okay,
Yeah.
we're going to move on to the next one. See, guys, we're giving you a visual show, a flower show. Oh, tell me the
Yeah, and this is
color
a maroon iris. I should have
there.
kind of put the stem out of the way before I snapped her,
It's
but
okay. It works.
yeah. She's beautiful, so I've got all different colors of irises in my garden.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And our irises are bulbs.
Yeah,
They
well,
come
they're
up.
rhizomes. They're rhizomes.
Okay.
Bulbs are different than
All
rhizomes.
right.
Rhizomes are kinda they crawl along the
Mm-hmm.
top and, that's one thing you have to kind of separate them and pull them apart and stuff like that.
Okay. And here's one more.
Oh, yeah, look at the colors on this, right? This is,
Beautiful.
yeah, and all the yellow ones are irises too. So there I've got like different colors of
Ah,
irises. You can see the purple ones and the yellow ones.
yes.
And then this
You
one is a
sh-
pretty little hybrid,
just
just kind of
beautiful.
a fancy one.
Well,
Yeah.
thank you for sharing your beauty. My beauty is basically just I'm planting pots and
Oh,
everything
so
all over.
Kim
All
says not
yeah.
not rhizomes, corms. Is that
Wow.
right?
Somebody look it up while we're talking. How's that?
Yeah,
Look it
there
up
you
and put
go.
it in the thing. That's just some of the stuff I've been doing. But
Mhm.
I think I need to put bulbs in or I need to do yearly things so that I don't have to do as much work every year around.
Mhm.
It's a lot of work. It's a
Yeah, no
lot of
kidding.
work. So, here we are.
Here we
So,
are.
yeah.
Here
So,
we
Jen,
are.
I'm going to give you the applause for showing us the beauty at your home.
Oh, my
Yes, yes,
pleasure.
yes.
My pleasure.
And it is nice. Everybody is joining. I can see that.
Uh-huh.
Oh, Kim says corms are long tubular that you can cut and retransplant.
There you
Really?
go.
Really? Corms. Yeah, see, no bullshit here. Gorgeous flowers. Thank you, Jennifer. I really did. I really, really, really appreciated that. You
Oh,
know.
thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you for giving me
Yeah.
the opportunity.
So let's
So,
do the.
Sandy, shall I give the overview of where we're going to go tonight?
Oh, yeah.
Where we might go tonight? All right.
Yeah. Give
So,
the
we're going to start out
overview.
with an article from the Times of Israel that just came out 2 days ago. Israeli study climate change already causing storm levels only expected in 2080. So, guys, guess what? It's 2022, and we are ahead of schedule by more than 50 years, if there
No.
was a schedule, which there isn't, you know? So we've got that one. And then we've got one from phys.org. Fjords may emit as much methane as all the deep oceans globally. So
Oh, that sounds like
wake
fun.
up and smell the
Yep.
methane, I guess. Even though methane is actually
Gasless
odorless,
olives.
it's odorless. They have to
Ooh,
actually put that smell into it to make it
they do.
stink.
I
Yeah.
know.
Okay. And then we've got one from the Scientific American. If sea ice melts in the Arctic, do trees burn in California? So Sandy and
That's
I are going to tag team this interview
yeah.
together and find out how the Arctic can affect other parts of the world, which, of course, as we
It
know,
will.
it can.
Yes, we
And then
will.
we have one from CNN, and we will see how much we actually read of this. We might only read a few paragraphs, but it's got a little video too.
Mm-hmm.
Middle East's 13 billion sandstorm, $13 billion sandstorm problem is about to get worse. So this is kind of a geopolitical look at things and how climate change is causing a lot of problems and tensions.
Yeah.
So, something interesting to look at. And then we definitely are going to get to this one, Sandy, from Umer Heg, just out. What do you call the feeling of a dying planet? I'm planet sick, and I think you might be too.
Oh, nothing like leaving everyone with a smile on their faces.
Of course, we have a cheerful show today. What else? What
Okay.
else do you want?
All right. All right. Wow. Well, it's great to see you guys. I see like we have Lisa here and Devon and Kay and Die 42 and Laura Santori. She did not have to work tonight, so she could be here, which is awesome. Very
Great,
nice.
great.
And Rich Diana and Kim Centeno. She always tells me I say it wrong. Gary Hoover. No bullshit here. It's great. Veg is here. Wolf Heinel, thank you for being here, madam. Jack and Anthony Davis and Mila. Hi, Mila. Mendy. This is a great
Great
chat.
group tonight. Great
Yes,
group
great
tonight.
group tonight. You guys enjoy our look, and we are going to start now. We're going to go into the first one. And Jennifer, we actually didn't decide who wanted to do what.
Why don't you take it away, Sandy, and get us started?
All right, I'll take it away. I will take it away. I kind of wanted to make this one a little bit bigger on the screen, but it's not going to work. So you
Yeah.
guys can see it. There we go. Israeli study. Interesting one. This was interesting. The Weizmann Institute of Science examination of recent uh what is it? Recent I'm sorry, I got already got screwed up. Southern Hemisphere storm finds considerable intensification. That is heating poles and threatening communities. So,
Mm.
an Israeli study published on Thursday found that climate change is already causing a considerable intensification of winter storms in the southern hemisphere to a level not anticipated till 2080. Pretty
Oops.
heavy.
What
Oops.
happened?
Yeah. And
What
I still
happened?
didn't get the oops sound effect.
Oops.
Yeah, we didn't get it. Not yet.
Oops.
So, this study is published by the Weizmann Institute of Science in the Nature Climate Change Journal. And it's part of an effort by scientists around the world to use 30 massive, intricate computer networks to better model and predict climate change. The study, which compared previous predictions of human caused intensification of winter storms in the southern hemisphere with current storm observations, found that the bleak reality was, oh, this is nice, far worse than expected.
I have never heard that expression before, Sandy.
I
far
know. It's
worse
like,
than
okay,
expected.
we never hear it.
Every
Yeah.
single
Uh-huh.
article.
Every
Oh my
single
God.
article. It is kind of it's scary. Uh
It is.
yes. This was led by Rai
Oh,
Chemke.
no.
Oh wait,
You
it
missed the
became
paragraph.
I missed the it became oh yes. The it became clear that storm intensification over recent decades. What did I
You
miss?
want me to kind of take it away? You want me to take it
I
away?
don't know why I'm missing things. Go
It's
ahead.
okay. Let me just take it away. Quote,
Okay.
it became clear that storm intensification
Thank
over
you.
recent decades has already reached levels projected to occur in the year 2080. The study, led by Dr. Ray Chemke of Weizmann Earth and Planetary Sciences Department, in collaboration with Dr. Yi Ming of Princeton University and Dr. Johnny Juval of MIT, quote, shows that current climate models severely underestimate the intensification in mid latitude storms
Wow.
in recent decades. A winter storm is a weather phenomenon that lasts only a few days. Individually, each storm doesn't carry much climatic weight. However, the long term effect of winter storms becomes evident when assessing cumulative data over long periods of time, Chumke said, explaining that storms affect the transfer of heat, moisture, and momentum within the
Wow.
atmosphere, which
Wow.
consequently affects the various climate zones on Earth. Wow. Quote, one example of the role that storms play in regulating the temperatures at Earth's poles. Winter storms are responsible for the majority of heat transport away from tropical regions towards the poles, he said, noting that without their contribution, the average pole temperature would be about 30 degrees C lower. That's 54 degrees
Wow.
lower
That's
if there
pretty
wasn't
heavy.
this tropical heat transport. So, when the jet stream, Sandy, is getting very, very erratic, right?
Yeah.
The whole weather system begins to break down because all this really hot air that is generated in the tropical regions now has an avenue directly into the North Pole in the northern
Wow.
hemisphere. So
That's
all
heavy.
this, it is heavy, and you can
That's
see it
really heavy.
pushing through. There was an example that I'll never forget when I was looking at the Bering Strait, and it was a temperature anomaly, and you could
Yeah.
see this red bloom pushing up through the
Wow.
Bering Strait, and it's all coming in, and it wouldn't be pushing in like that if it wasn't for the weakening of the jet stream. That's the God honest truth.
That seems to be the bottom of
Chemke also
everything.
noted that the current trends pose, yeah, a real and significant threat to societies in the southern hemisphere in the next decade. So we haven't really talked much about that. This study said it only examines storms in the southern hemisphere because the intensification there has been so far has so far been stronger than in the north. That's interesting, huh? However, Chemke said that if the trend persists, we will be observing more significant winter storm intensification here in the upcoming years and decades. The
Wow.
study
There.
also investigated whether these sudden changes could be attributed to natural changes in climate patterns or were caused by external factors such as human activity, and found that over the past 20 years, storms have been intensifying faster than can be explained by internal climatic behavior alone. The study also examined why current models were not able to accurately predict the storm
Oh.
changes, and found that it was due to changes in atmospheric jet streams. Bing, bing,
Bang.
bing,
Bang.
bing. That's it,
Wow.
guys. It's all about that.
It's a pretty
That
heavy
sets up the
study.
frame. Yeah, it sets up the framework for everything. However, the study found that
Oh.
while there were problems predicting these specific events, most computer modeling of climate change was accurate. So that's interesting. The models are doing a very good job at forecasting nearly all the parameters. We've discovered one parameter for which the sensitivity of the models needs to be adjusted. Changes in temperature, precipitation, sea ice, and summer storm patterns, for example, are all being simulated accurately. Well, that's good. At least the models are accurate in the general
Yes.
sense. Of course, they
Yes.
couldn't predict a
Don't let me
certain
forget something
storm.
about the models after this.
Okay, sure.
Okay.
Still, the research results were alarming, the study said, noting that climate projections for the coming decades are graver than previous assessments, and in this case, with dire implications for the southern hemisphere. This means that rapid and decisive intervention is required in order to halt climate damage in this region.
Mhm.
Oh, yeah. And that is that.
That
That
is
is
that.
that.
That okay, what I wanted to say about this was well,
Yes.
with the models always.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
climate deniers, the people that are the whatever they are, the dopes that follow the heartland and all the deniers, they sit there and tell us that the climate models are full of shit. And
Mm.
I've read it so many times in the articles. They will say that this model and
Hmm.
that model and nothing works right. And here's a study that we can now use to say to the Heartland Institute, fuck you. And that goes to the Heartland Institute
Oh.
because now we have this study, and this study is, we'll send it to them. I'm going to send it to them. I'm going to tweet it to them because they're always, always putting down the climate models.
Well, I'm
And
sure they've been waiting for your tweet and they will probably
they
change
are
their mind
just,
once they get it.
they are completely waiting. Yeah, Jennifer. All right. I think
Yeah,
I'm ready.
you know.
I didn't have the screen perfect and I got myself waylaid, but I think that I'm ready to take on this
Mhm,
one and we can
mhm,
tag team
mhm,
again. We definitely can.
mhm.
So and I want to just quickly say hello to Bella Lugrisi. It's nice to have you here.
Hello, Bella.
I know you've been busy and it's good to see you here. All right. So here we go. Here's we sort of, segue over to methane and these fjords may emit as much methane as all the deep oceans globally. Now that's quite a statement also. So let's see what this one's going. During heavy storms, the normally stratified layers of water in ocean fjords get mixed, which leads to oxygenation of the fjord floor. But these storm events also result in a spike in methane emissions from fjords to the atmosphere.
Mm.
Researchers at the University of Gothenburg have estimated that the total emissions of this climate warming gas are as great from fjords as from all the deep ocean areas in the world put together. Heavy shit. And this is
Mhm.
Fizzorg. So everything we're reading tonight is it's like I just should have called this the heavy shit night. I
This is
really
the
should
heavy
have.
shit
It
night. Oh my
is. I'm
god,
telling
yes,
you. The
totally.
world's fjords were created when the inland ice receded and are a relatively rare natural feature constituting only 13% or 0.13% of all of the oceans on the earth. However, according to researchers from the University of Gothenburg, emissions of methane from the surface of fjords are comparable to emissions of this gas from global deep oceans, which account for 84% of the global sea surface area. These results were presented in an article in the Science journal Limnology and Oceanography Letters. It's been known for some time that many fjords have anoxic environments closest to the bottom and that methane forms in the bottom sediment.
Mhm.
Usually, only a small portion of this gas ever reaches the atmosphere because it gets broken down as it ascends through that more oxygen rich water closer to the surface. But in their research, they recorded large emissions of methane when the water in the fjord was mixed during storm events. For example, says Stefano Bonaglia, researcher in marine geochemistry at the Department of Marine Sciences at the University of Gothenburg. Holy crap. Anoxic
Mhm.
environments produce methane. And I'm sure that Jim Massa has a video on this on his channel. If you want to find it, go find it on Jim's channel. Anoxic environments produce methane. Detecting and budgeting methane emissions to the future atmosphere is essential to be able to model the future climate. Researchers estimate that the methane emissions cause about 30% of the greenhouse effect. The contributions of the oceans to methane emissions is budgeted as significantly smaller than from land areas, but human activity has increased eutrophication in coastal areas, and this has created larger areas of anoxic waters on the seafloor. This is particularly apparent in the fjords, and although they constitute only 0.13% of the global sea surface area, they account for about half of all emissions to the atmosphere. Wow. What do you think of
Wow.
that?
No.
Are you I mean
Point
that's
0.13% of the
point.
atmosphere,
Yeah.
0.13% of the global sea surface area in the fjords, half the methane emissions in the atmosphere. Which of these is not like the other one? You
I'm
know?
telling you, I'm not sure if we
Wow.
should use this one. This is like definitely a boom boom boom. But
That's kind
well,
of
yeah.
scary.
Yeah, it is. So what they go on to say is that because in the fjords, carbon-rich sediment is deposited from marine plants and animals, as well as from materials entering the fjords and the surrounding land via streams that flow into them. Jennifer, they're like
Mhm.
little compost heaps. So they're definitely breaking down and having more emission. I totally. This is an article that is up both of our alleys. As these fjords are relatively protected from the ocean current, the water tends to remain stratified in layers at different temperatures and with different concentrations of salt and oxygen. The layers closest to the fjord floor are anoxic regions where methane gas forms as the
Mhm.
material in the sediment decomposes, says
Mhm.
Stefano Bonaglia. So,
Mhm.
architecture, what am I thinking about? Agriculture drives that eutrophication. The researchers from the University of Gothenburg studied by fjord near Uddevalla during the period 2009 to 2021 conducted field studies to measure the methane produced in the fjord. By fjord, is hypoxic and affected by the eutrophication. The Bave River flows into the fjord, bringing with it high concentrations of nutrients from the agriculture in that region. So it was clear that during mixing events in the fjord, emissions of methane to the atmosphere rose. During these events, the anoxic water from the bottom is lifted to the surface, taking that methane with it. So visualize this, guys, which can be emitted into the atmosphere. I'm just looking at it like it's, woo, like, and like that. Uh, 1 million metric tons of methane. The emissions were high. And American researchers, they have seen the same type of events in fjords in Canada. We estimate that emissions from all the world's fjords are of the same magnitude and around 1 teragram or 1 million metric tons per year as the budgeted emissions
Wow.
from the global deep oceans. This is because the distance from the bottom to the surface of a fjord is much shorter in deep oceans. The
Than in deep
results,
oceans, yeah.
yes, than in deep oceans. And the results in more organic matter being deposited in the sediment and not enough time for the methane to be broken down on its way to the surface, says Stefano Bonaglia, and adds that if climate change leads to more extreme weather events, methane emissions may rise, but only up to a certain point. If we were to see a sharp rise in the number of heavy storm events, methane emissions would be reduced because the anoxic environments at the bottom of the fjords would disappear if the
Mhm.
water was mixing frequently. Holy shit, that was
Mhm.
interesting.
Mhm. It is, and it shows that these waters in the fjords are stratified, and the whole
Yeah.
bottom part
Yeah,
is rotting away in an anoxic,
yep.
oxygen-free environment,
hmm
belching out methane as
The
fast as it
ocean
can.
compost.
And who
Oh
ever
my
thought
God.
about the fjords being a major source
Well,
of
we've
methane?
never talked about this.
We
So
haven't
I
talked
don't even
about
know
this.
who or the mainstream media never talked about it. And maybe we never picked up on it, but oh my gosh. I mean, I'm sorry, but I think that's an
Mhm.
interesting field of study that I
Tis.
would definitely, I would like us to follow up on. So we
Yes,
will.
indeed.
It's
Indeed.
fascinating. Okay, well, guys, I see you're all busy out there. Let me see if there's any questions real quick. I don't think I listen. It's going so fast. I didn't slow down the chat, and we're busy, both of us. So it's really hard for me to. But if you don't put a Q, I can't. I really can't. I can't get to it. So remember, put a Q in front of anything, and we're going to move on. Jennifer, why don't you take it away on the uh, Scientific American?
Sure.
All
So
right.
this one just came out May 19th. If sea ice melts in the Arctic, do trees burn in California? So this is about the interrelationships. It's actually an interview. Emily Schwing is the interviewer. I am Emily. And Hei Long Wang is the interviewee. And Sandy is Hei Long Wang.
Yes, we're acting. We're yin and yanging it. I'm going to be
We're
the
and
Hey
I'm
Long Wang.
and
Sorry.
I'm gonna be Schwing.
And we don't even have beavers this week.
Oh my god. Ridiculous. Okay, guys. Here we go.
Okay, we're just
All
being
right.
silly.
No, no.
Hi,
Here we
Emily.
go. Hi. Oil and water, apples and oranges, fire and ice. None of these things really seem like they have much in common with one another, or do they?
Well, we found more fire favorable weather associated with declines in the Arctic sea ice during summer can increase autumn wildfires over the western United States, where our very good friend Jennifer lives.
Mm-hmm. Hei Long Wang, that's you, Sandy, is an earth scientist at Pacific Northwest National Laboratory in Washington State.
So, we've analyzed a few decades of observations of how wildlife incidents, sea ice cover, and weather conditions to identify a relationship between Arctic sea ice decline and the wildfire risks. We call it a teleconnection.
Ooh. Wang says this idea of fire and ice teleconnection, it's not new. It's a lot like the so-called butterfly effect, a coined by meteorologist Edward Lorenz in the 1960s to explain chaos theory. The idea can be summarized like this. If a butterfly flaps its wings in one location, that could displace enough air to cause a tornado or some large scale atmospheric storm elsewhere.
Well, certainly didn't invent this concept, but it has been in the atmospheric sciences for a long time. So, because of the connections within the Earth system, especially in the atmosphere, one small change in one region could affect other regions through the atmospheric circulations.
Connections between declining sea ice and wildfire weather have been made before. Wang says previous findings have relied heavily on statistical relationships.
Well, for example, they found that maybe Arctic sea ice are declining in many years, and that they also found the increase in extreme weather like wildfires in the western US. They can only identify the relationship, but there's no mechanism to explain which one is the cause and which one is the effect.
Those relationships found a link between a decrease in sea ice and an increase in wildfires in the western US, but they could not explain the cause and effect. So Wang and colleagues took those known statistical relationships a step further. The team applied them to a state of the art.
Something with the. No, I didn't. Oh, hang on. So, Dr. Wang had a little technical difficulty. In that way, we were able to identify the response of the climate system, including the fire weather over the western U.S. and other responses to the Arctic sea ice.
What they found is a tale of two vortices.
So, when the summer sea ice is much reduced, ocean can absorb and store more heat from sunlight. Less sea ice cover over the Arctic will allow more heat to also be released from the ocean to the atmosphere in the following autumn and early winter. Otherwise, the sea ice can insulate the heat from the ocean to the air. Ooh.
So, more heat is released to the atmosphere as the sea ice declines.
And the anomalous heat in the Arctic can form rising air from the surface, and that can strengthen the low pressure system, which is one of the spinning vortex. It's counterclockwise.
This forms a low pressure system, and Wang says when it moves south, it pushes the polar jet stream off its normal course and forms a second vortex.
So, this shift also facilitates the formation of a high pressure system over the western US. The high pressure system is a clockwise spinning vortex. This drives that dry and hot air to descend from the ground, from the upper air to the ground. So normally, when it comes with clear skies, and it comes with clear skies and no precip. So all of the they're favorable weather conditions for wildfire hazards.
The findings are published in Nature Communications, and Wang says wildfire might not be the only result of declining sea ice.
Oof. The Arctic changes could also be connected to extreme cold weather.
Like the infamous 2021 Texas ice and snowstorm that knocked out power to millions and caused billions of dollars in damage. Wang says looking for more teleconnections is where his research will go
All right.
next.
Yes, my research moving forward, we would like to explore more connections of Arctic changes to weather, extreme weather, climate change over other regions of the entire globe.
If wildfires and sea ice could be this climatically entwined, surely there are other climate surprises waiting just to be unraveled. For 60 Second Science, I'm Emily Schwing.
And thank you, Emily. I'm Wang. Oh. I forgot my name. I'm Heilong Wang. Dr.
You are
Heilong Wang.
Heilong. You are Dr. Heilong
Heilong
Wing.
Wang.
Yeah, you
That was
betcha,
really
baby.
good too. We really hit a home run with everything tonight. Holy crap. I'm reading them over, and when tonight, just reading everything over seems to really reverberate my brain. Good choices.
Yeah. Oh, thank you.
Yes, man. You're
Yeah.
welcome. You are welcome. So
All
now
right.
this is the one you're good. We're not going to go the whole. I don't
We're
think
going
we're
to
going to
see
go the
how
whole
we
thing.
do because I want to
Yeah.
leave enough time for Umair.
Oh
But
yeah.
let's get this started because this is pretty interesting because it loops in geopolitics with climate change with already existing tensions, and the whole thing is whipped up in a blender. So do you want me to get started with this one, Sandy?
Absolutely. This is it's a good one. Look at this.
Yeah,
Look at this sandstorm. Look what it looks like.
look at
I mean,
that.
tell me those people are not wearing masks.
Oh god, and the grit gets in everything. Oh my
Everything.
god, because these
Ugh.
things, they just go on, and it's very, very
Oh.
fine sand, like almost like a dust. The Middle East $13 billion sandstorm problem is about to get worse. The skies from Dubai to as far away as Syria turned an apocalyptic orange as dust and sand whirled through the air this month. Thousands of people in the Middle East flooded hospitals, unable to breathe properly. In Syria, medical units stockpiled canisters of oxygen. Businesses and schools were shut in Baghdad, while Tehran suspended flights and Kuwait halted maritime traffic. This affected the entire Arab region in the
Yeah.
Middle East.
Yeah.
Sandstorms know no borders. They threaten to wreak havoc on a region that's vital to the global economy, and the with the potential to impact everything from the price of gas at the pump in the United States to how soon a customer in Spain can receive a package from China.
Let's go through this one. I don't want to watch it right now. Let's because this is good. Let's read as much as we can.
Okay. Experts are warning that the phenomena is only getting worse. It's driven partly by climate change that's making the region's landscapes hotter and drier and warping weather patterns to create more intense storms. Home to three strategic waterways and almost half the world's known oil reserves, the Middle East is crucial to global trade and energy supply. A glimpse of the destructive power of the storms was seen in March 2021 when the Suez Canal was blocked for 6 days by a ship that was blown off course by a sandstorm, holding up almost $60 billion in trade. Wow, that's a lot for a traffic
Mhm.
jam, isn't it? 12% of the global trade passes through that choke point. But the storms wreak their greatest havoc on the health of Middle East people and their economies. According to World Bank, the phenomena costs the region's economy $13 billion a year. While sandstorms are typical this time of year, they are now occurring with
Yeah, that's it.
unprecedented frequency, experts say. Iraq has been especially hard hit, with sandstorms occurring on almost a weekly basis this spring.
Mm.
According to Ali Atiyah, a professor of atmospheric science at Musasriya University in Baghdad, a typical spring would see about 1 to 3 storms per month. But at least 9 major storms have descended on the country since April, with more expected. An Iraqi official warned this year that the country is now facing an average of
Oh my God.
272 dust days a year. Huh? They only have
Well, that's one way
100,
of
less than
stopping to
100
drive.
days.
They
Oh
can't
my
drive.
God. With 300 days of dust predicted by 2050. Oh my God, the Middle East is just going to be
I know.
a big dust storm. What's happening in Iraq should serve as an early warning sign of what could happen to other parts of this region, Mohammed Mahmoud, director of climate and water program at the Middle East Institute, told CNN. Gulf states are especially vulnerable to increasing dust storms, he said,
Mm.
adding that countries like Egypt and Libya are also at risk. Costs range from ruined agriculture crops and damaged machinery to closure of ports and airports. and hours spent cleaning up roads and other infrastructure. The
Goodness.
factors behind the increasing frequency of storms are complex. Experts blame scorching temperatures and extreme dryness, combined with years of poor land and water management in countries like Iraq and Iran, for increased
Yeah, there we go.
desertification and soil erosion. A
Poopy.
drier topsoil means more dust sources can be picked up by the strong winds that blow over the Middle East. Some experts say years of war have also played a part in the degradation of land, leading to an increase in dust sources. Armed conflict has to have had a huge impact on the environment, on governance, and on society, said Igor Magrati, a Middle East and water habitat advisor for the International Committee of the Red Cross. The effects of climate change will only intensify these problems. Temperatures in the Middle East are rising twice as fast as the global average, and climate models predict a decrease in precipitation over some key parts of the region. But the but part of the problem could also originate much further afield. Diana Francis, the head of the Environmental and Geophysical Sciences Lab at Khalifa University in the UAE, United Emirates, found that a major 2015 dust storm impacted Iraq and parts of the Arabian Peninsula was formed due to changes in the polar region. Melting ice in the
Again,
Arctic is reducing the temperatures created between the polar region and the mid latitudes. And this makes the weather system move slowly over our region.
it's related to
Convection,
everything.
it is. Everything
It's
is related.
everything
Every
to the
single thing is
Arctic.
related. Everything is leading back to the Arctic and also Antarctica. Convection leading to storms can now occur over several days, whereas before, without climate change, it would have occurred over several hours and moved on. So they're just like getting hammered.
Hammered.
Hammered. While countries in the region have been slow to protect themselves from the storms, some are taking note. There is really something to be done about increasing the water supply for these areas in Iraq. Another thing is to try planting some vegetation to
Okay.
reduce these bare areas that are exposed to high winds.
What kind? Hmm.
Yeah. In April, Iraq announced that it would rehabilitate 10 oases in its western desert to combat the
Okay.
increase in dust storms. But many of these projects have reportedly stalled in the past due to financial mismanagement. Yeah, just take some of that oil money and see if you
Yeah.
can
Or wouldn't it
get
be
your oasis.
nice if the United States would stop sanctions and specify that these projects have to be
Yeah,
implemented,
yeah.
and that money could go there, that instead of having sanctions that hurt the people.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Saudi Arabia has committed to plant 10 billion trees in the country and some other 40 billion in the
Wow.
region to fight sandstorms and desertification.
Who's going to
The
water them?
country well, you've got to plant like acacia, like these thorn bushes, things that
Okay.
can live in the desert. And the more trees you plant, the more water is captured, and you can actually change the climate. They've done
Wow.
this
Cool.
in the Sahara to try and stop the Sahara
Good.
in Africa. They've planted, like 1,500 miles of green barrier. It can be done. It can be
Good.
done.
I'd like to see
Yeah,
this. Absolutely.
it
Jean
can
just
be
said
done.
it. Remember, this used to be the Fertile Crescent. Can
It
you
did.
imagine if it could be
It
made that
did.
way again? And that's not hopium. I mean, people are
Well,
going to try.
well, The one of the reasons it was the Fertile Crescent is the weather patterns 6 to 7,000 years ago were
Okay.
quite a bit different, and it was much, much moister in the Middle East than it is today. So,
Yeah, that's
hence,
true.
you could have a Fertile Crescent, but I don't think you could have a Fertile Crescent anymore. No, no, no. In 2016, the UAE's Masdar Institute launched a high-tech dust forecasting system. Wow! They have a high-tech dust forecasting system
I need
that
it in my house.
wow, that countries in the Middle East could use to better prepare for major storms. The experts argue more needs to be done, and if countries don't act soon, the consequences on the region will be devastating. They run the risk of these summer dust storm seasons becoming the norm,
Yeah.
warned Mahmoud. In the long term, if that level of frequency and magnitude persists, you are looking at a serious public health issue in respiratory illnesses and death, and huge economic cost.
Oh no!
Yeah.
Oh, yes. That
Yeah.
well, we made it through that one, and I didn't show the video because I wasn't sure if it would play. I could try really quickly because then
Yeah.
we're really gonna bring it home. Let's try. Let me see if I could
Let's
try
give
right
it a
through the
shot.
screenshot. I mean, it doesn't hurt for me to try. Guys, tell us if you can hear. I'm gonna have to test with this.
Yeah.
I have it set so that the system audio is on, and let's see if it works. Doesn't seem to want to for me, but let's try it. All right, let's go. Go.
He's frozen.
I know he's frozen.
Hmm.
Best laid plans.
Oh
He's
well.
frozen.
He's
Oh,
totally
well. Hey,
frozen.
listen, we
How about
tried.
refresh your browser, just like
All right,
refresh
let's
it and
see.
see if you
Let's
can reset it.
see. Yeah, maybe he will maybe he'll play. We can always try. You know, you guys everybody knows
Something
how
else that's
up
going on here
There you
too,
go.
now.
There you go.
Let's but
sandstorms.
we got
Now
I have
once
to
you
know
get
if
a
if
sandstorm
they
going,
can hear.
the dust and the
They can
sand just
hear.
kind of
I think
lands
they
in a
can
different
hear.
place. The next storm, the next wind event, moves it along again. So this is just one after another, kind of that self-fulfilling prophecy that just doesn't get better. It just actually just still gets worse every time the wind blows. Something here about a 15-year drought in this region. We can show you to you in different colors. You can see the sand blowing around. Here's a
Oh my
yellow
God.
representation of the sand. But here's what it looked like on the ground in Baghdad. The air was filled with dust and sand. Many people had to go to the hospital.
Wow.
It's amazing.
So many people had to go to the hospital. So
Yeah.
not
And you know,
fun.
as the article said, dust storms are endemic in this region. It's not abnormal, but what is different is that they are getting stuck and they're not moving on, and they're just sitting in the same place, churning up the land and the dust and making it 10 times worse. And
Right.
then I guess that's also related to the fact that it's warming twice as much in the Middle East as it is in the rest of the world. So it's kind of,
That's pretty, yeah.
yeah, it's
I
kind of
do have to
scary.
answer a question, Jennifer, before we wrap it up and go on with our ace in the hole. Gary says, any chance you could post the articles? Listen, Gary, I always post them after the show. Sometimes I post them before the show, depending on time, but I just want to tell you they'll always be there. Just so you know, because that was your comment, and I want to make sure that everybody knows I put everything in the show notes. Okay,
Hmm.
now we can move on. And we have, oh boy, do we have, you
We
know
got a
what
hard
you,
hitter,
yeah,
guys. We
we
got a
got a
hard
hard
hitter.
hitter to go home with. Yep, yep, yep. We're just definitely we're gonna give you an Umar Hake who doesn't hold
Yeah.
it back. That, look at that picture. That almost looks like it Ifran Khan, but it looks like it could have been Greece when Greece was on fire.
Yeah.
Who knows? It could be anywhere. All right, how do you want to do this one?
Up to you. We
All
can
right,
tag
we'll
team it,
tag team.
you know.
Yep, we'll tag team and I'll start. All right. I want to discuss something with you gently. very gently. A feeling, just a feeling, I guess, but one like a hammer. I think it's falling on all of us. I definitely do. Uh, if it is, if it is gently, I don't know where to begin. Really, sometimes I discuss great and urgent messages with you guys. Sometimes I'm angry. Sometimes I try to teach you. This time, it's just this feeling. I can't shake it. It's like, it goes with me everywhere. A kind of sadness that I have never felt before. So they have words for it already, this new feeling. But I don't think they do justice. So I'm going to try to discuss it the way I think it should be. It's the feeling of a dying planet, of being the last of our kind, of things falling apart, of ending on a scale that the 300,000 short years of Homo sapiens have never known. The feeling of extinction. Do you feel it too? Some days I want to scream with this feeling. I think they'll write books about it in the not too distant future when we're allowed to finally talk about it. When we stop pretending that Marvel movies and Insta-fluencers are a substitute for human culture. I want to scream the words out loud. I don't know how to exist in this world anymore. This is one. I know how to exist in a lot of worlds. When you're like me and you never belong to anything, a country, a city, a tribe, a family, really, even you learn to exist in different worlds. And in those worlds, you have your heart broken in many ways, just like people do. Go for it, Jen.
I've been homesick. I've had that feeling. I've been the thing beyond homesick. Where is my home anymore? I think it was the first real feeling I ever had. My parents, bless their souls, ripped me away from a happy childhood and dragged me to the insane brutality of America, where as a gifted kid, I was pitted against every other kid in a kind of weird fight to the death. Survival of the fittest. All I wanted when I was a kid was to go back home. I was so traumatized by all that day to this day, from the ages of 2 to about 8, I have no memory whatsoever. They're just blank space where childhood should be, filled with the feeling of homesickness. Happens to the best of us. Don't cry for me. We're just talking about this new feeling. This thing that's a sadness beyond all the sadnesses I've known. Lovesick? You've been there, and I have too. Who hasn't spent their teenage years lovesick? I was a prototypical cool guy as a teenager. I'd smoke pot on the roof of the school. Everyone knew it, from the teachers to the principals to parents, and they giggled because it was my job. As the cool one, I was so cool, I sneered at going to prom and did the unthinkable. I sent my girlfriend with someone else. God, how cool. Wow. Umair is I was lovesick. Like every other young person in existence. Maybe only more so. Hence the difference. The impregnability, the sang-froid, the literal coolness. These are familiar aches. Familiar. As we go through life, we know the taste of them, the metallic flavor of homesickness, the pulsing aridity of lovesickness, and they hurt. And that's only the beginning. Then you lose someone you love. Grief pours in like the ocean. Familiar aches. No life goes by without tasting them. This is what language was made for. This is what music is. The cry from one soul to another of all this pain. But this This is new. I'm not homesick. I'm not lovesick. I shouldn't be depressed or anxious or feeling bad in any way at all, really. I have a lovely wife who's a doctor, and I get to basically write for a living, and I have this funny little dog. So, what the hell is going on with me, with you, with us? We came back to Europe this morning. The flight was terrible. I hate flying. But this time, it was different. The sun was setting over America's east coast. The clouds glinted in dark copper in the twilight. And I just noticed, with this strange mixture of emotions, guilt, shame, remorse. For what? Why? Do you have these moments these days? Let me give you another one quickly. The afternoon before our flight, they came to pick Snowy up. He had to travel separately, the poor little guy, but he's brave, way braver than the little dog in the size of a bag of sugar has any right to be. We said our goodbyes. He looked at me stoically. I know the drill, Dad. I'll see you on the other side. His big round eyes said to me. I went into the garage, hid from my mom and wife, and cried like a baby for about 20 minutes. What the hell is wrong with me? With us? Do you have these moments like these days too? I mean, come on. Nobody likes being away from their dog. But this was for a few hours.
Make me cry.
This sudden rush of emotion, it wasn't really about the dog at all. So what was it about? On the flight, I read a strange story about a banker at HSBC who, let me quote him, said, "Who cares if Miami is 6 meters underwater in about 100 years?" during a presentation entitled, "Why Investors Need Not Care About Climate Risk."
I read this. I read the article about this.
Bastards. That's just one of the highlights, by the way, of what he had to say. Yeah. At first, I got angry. What kind of a-hole? You know where my thoughts went, because yours are going there right now, too. Guys like this literally want to make money off of all this pain. And then the puzzle finally begins to fit together. I'm not homesick. I'm not lovesick. I'm planet sick. A whole new word. Sometimes we need it. I am planet sick, my friends. And if you ask me what that means, thanks. I'll be happy to tell you, because I think many of you probably feel the same way too. Planet sick. How can I even put it into words? Have you read Basho, the old wandering Japanese haiku master? One of my favorite poems of his is this, just this. Even in Kyoto, I long for Kyoto. There. Did you feel it when I read you that? A sudden stab. Right in the heart. Basho's words reach across the centuries and touch us still. What genius it is to be able to express all that in just 7 translated words. Even in Kyoto, I long for Kyoto. If you ask me what planet sickness is, first I'll quote you Basho, because poetry is far more efficient way to communicate emotions than sentences, isn't it? But if you still don't quite get it, well, let me keep trying. Planet sick. It means I'm angry at us for what we've done, for our planet is dying. It's our fault. No, sorry, I don't have time to play good leftist and draw oh so subtle nuances between us and them. We did it. Homo sapiens. Anger is the first thing I feel. And I feel angry at all those who want to paint distinctions as if it somehow aids the matter too. What do you even call the murder of a planet? Is this who we are? The second thing I feel is a staggering sense of disbelief. It's pockmarked with shame, laced with guilt. We did this. Nobody else is remotely capable of doing this. In the entire universe, so far as we know, dogs aren't out there killing planets. Fish aren't. Lions aren't. We are. We are the most violent creatures there are. Sartre and Camus, writing in the ashes of the World War, had that realization, and it staggered them too. Sartre grew famously nauseated, and Camus called for a rebellion of love against this violence in us. Together, all these stands of thought added up to one thing called humanism. It was brief, noble, beautiful moment. And yet, here we are. We have killed a planet. You might interject here. You know the kind of guys who do, I'm sure. They all have boring jobs, and they love to debate things because for them, life is just some kind of power game. This isn't a game. It's real. You can argue if you really want to be that guy, the one who argues over what killing a planet means, which means, dude, nobody will ever date you. That the planet isn't dead yet, or the planet isn't going to die. But for all this is just semantics, really. We've unleashed extinction on a scale unseen for millions of years. We've altered the climate unstoppably at this point, and both of those are pretty good working definition of killing a planet. If you're going to be the guy who argues, but one starfish survives, so you're wrong, haha. Listen, my friend, read the room. This isn't a grad school debate. It's not dorks in Oxford Union. This is real life. We have literally set in motion the annihilation of life as we know it. Quadrillions of unaccountable numbers of lives, like the eagles dropping dead from the heat in the subcontinent. Those lives matter. They exist. They count. Or do they? The third thing I feel is a terrible sense of remorse, because the truth is that nothing matters enough to us to change any of this. The average person cares way more about literal comic book superheroes like they were goddamn 6-year-olds than the death of the planet. They care more about Instafluencers trying to sell them moisturizers or soap than they do about noble animals beginning to drop dead from heat. The average person is such an ignoramus, such an embarrassment, such an onanistic. Go ahead, Google
it.
I have never heard that word. Go ahead, Google it.
I should Google it.
Moron. That they literally can't even read the signs at this point. But when birds are literally dropping from the sky dead in mid-flight, maybe it's time to fucking look up. Remorse. It cuts through me like a dagger. How did we fail at all this? All this. At civilizing the average person to care about a goddamn thing made of reality versus phantom images on screens. Of making the world not just about money, which psychopaths control at most, at building a planet where all living things are nurtured and tended to and cared for, instead of literally annihilated to please this satanically idiotic combination of insatiably psychotic billionaires and their algorithmically controlled brain-dead masses.
Woo!
How did we get here? You want to take it, Sandy?
Yeah, okay. That's about when I looked down at Snowy. Why did it hit me so hard when the little guy left for those few hours on a flight? I think I understand now. Snowy is my connection to the earth. I'm about as far away from a nature boy as you can get. I'm a city slicker. You'll find me standing under the neon sign. Under neon, huh? Smoking a cigarette at 4 a.m. But Snowy, he connects me. I never expected it, falling in love with a dog. Me? Come on, dude. Come on. My life was about music, art, culture. Between one great city and the next, I didn't even have time for a dog. And then Snowy came along. Now we walk in the park together. He walks closer to the earth than I do. He knows it as intimately as a mother. He's about 4 inches away from it. So while I'm up here in Homo sapiens land, being one of the so-called thinking apes, lost in my own delusions and fantasies, Snowy, he's always telling me about this relationship he has, one I'll never have. What it's like down there, that close to the soil, how it smells, tastes, feels. He grins up at me. I begin to understand. Maybe long ago our ancestors had this kind of relationship with the earth. Maybe still today. There are a few left who do. Me? I try, There are moments you're sitting on a mountainside and the light hits just so, and you feel, like you're a part of all this. The planet is your mother's mother and father's father. This earth is the soil in which your bones will turn to dust. It will hold you closer than any lover. This is who you are. You are a child of Earth. You are a child of Earth. You are the murderer of Earth. My God, who can contain it? Who can really know that and not have their heart burst with the insane Greek tragedy of it, the Oedipal ending of it? We killed the thing that gave birth to us. Now you understand why the psychos are so happy about the planet dying. The billionaires, the tech barons, the bankers, why they can all barely contain their glee. It's repulsive to the rest of us, and it's deeply weird. Who delights in such horror, such trauma, such damnation? What the hell? But when you understand that this person longs to kill that which gave birth to it, and that's why these evil bastard fuckers are all so happy about the death of the planet, because that's the underlying trauma of all the psychosis. Really, getting vengeance on your creation, then it makes sense. These guys really are that crazy. They are really that damaged. They want to kill mommy, and nothing makes them happier than seeing mommy suffer because mommy wasn't perfect enough to keep them little man babies happy forever. So this is where we are. Some of us were already insane with rage and hate, and they rose to power and fortune swiftly. Go ahead and tell me you really think that the dude who tweets a lot and owns a car company is mentally well balanced. They entered a kind of suicide pact with the average person and only cared much about their self-aggrandizement. Hey, who cares if it takes a whole forest to make me feel better about my crap life for 14 seconds? I don't. LOL. Oh, Cue the pundit who calls the joke. That's not a joke. Hyperbole. Who's the guy in question? The rest of us, the thoughtful ones, the sane ones, we're being driven mad. Because we are the children of the earth, my friends, sons and daughters of the dust and the wind, and no heart can contain the death of such a thing. The parent of all the parents, the ancestor of ancestors, the home of all homes, no heart can contain the grief. So here we are. I'll struggle with it. They'll call it new names like eco grief or whatnot, which they already are, and they'll try to therapize it. But I doubt it. I don't think it's something that should be therapized. I think it's something that should be felt and witnessed. We are going to be the last generations to ever know a living planet, a habitable one, for full of all these incredible, beautiful, miraculous kind of lives. The earth after this one will be fire and flood and plague and ruin. And don't tell me you can't already see it arriving. We are the last of our kind, and we must do what the last of any kind should do. We must show remorse for our crime. We must show guilt for our violence. We must gather up as many lives as we can now and tend to them, witness them, know them, because they will be the last kind of their kind. We owe them that much. Our progeny will regard us like something, the way history regards fascists, only probably worse. Sorry, but it's true. Go ahead and think about it. Extinction. They will remember us as the ones who killed the planet, who was the mother and father of us all, who wiped out all these beautiful and noble lives. You think that exile from the Garden of Eden was just a story? We're living it. Only history will remember us as the serpent. And so we have one thing left to do with our days. We got to take this feeling, Jennifer, planet sickness, and do something with it to right the moral scales again, or else what? The worst among us, the psychopaths, the bankers, the billionaires, they win. They're all that humanity is remembered for, and all our grandkids ever know about us, and all that counts, they fucking win. And humanity goes down without a fight as this stinking, festering wreck of disgrace we currently are. I'm planet sick, my friends. I know this grief will hit me like lightning, like the rest of my days. Camus said, the only duty I know is to love. Me, I say that that's the only duty left. We killed the planet. So you tell me, what do we owe it? Oh my God. I will tell you, Jennifer, I heard that guy. I watched that guy from HSBC, and I was angry. And Umar evidently,
Really?
yes, he evidently read it and saw it like I did, and it pissed me off because this guy is sitting here saying we don't have to worry about climate change, like a denier, but he's trying to be a cool hip denier with
Yeah.
HSBC.
Wow.
Umar is insanely amazing. I mean, he's
He
scary,
is so great.
but he's great. He's good. And I want to talk to somebody out there in the audience. And I want us both to answer this, Jen.
Hmm.
I was thinking, this is no bullshit here. I was thinking of taking the summer off of climate reality for mental health. It's not easy to know everything going on globally. However, it's like an addiction. I want to address that, and I want Jennifer to address it, how we deal with it. And it's not an addiction if you're constantly learning. If you then find your things to do, volunteer, join somebody that's doing something for your community, for your environment, garden, build something, volunteer to help, join an organization that wants to see, the United States not become fascist. There are so many things you can do. You can still be in the doomosphere, but you don't have to live it every day like it is carrying you, because there's so much you can do, and we owe it to the children to do it and not give up. And yes, talk collapse is important, but we still owe it. We owe it.
Yeah, and I understand what he's saying about it being an addiction. It gets to be kind of an addiction to know every single piece of news that's going on, to see the collapse of our biosphere and planet in so many different ways. And maybe also what he's talking about is just the compulsion to get your hands on every single piece of news and sink your head into it, and it can start to unbalance you,
Of course.
you know.
We do this 3
So
times a
don't
week.
just just say no. Don't do it all the time, you know.
Right.
Um, do it
But
here,
yet,
meet
and
with your
yes,
friends,
yes.
you know.
Absolutely. So I wanted to address that because I thought it was so important because there is a lot of there are things like here, DL Sendero, get organized. There's things to do. You don't have to just stay in inertia. Even though a lot of our Jennifer, you talk about inertia scientifically, you know, you know.
Yeah.
Lorax says
Yeah.
yes, and it's too late. You can't unlearn doom, but there's no going back. But you can change your direction. And as I always say, do things even without even when we know, the end, we know that that end result may not be what we want. On the way there, there's a lot to do. And even with the Mears project, even with these local projects, there's always something local going on environmentally. And I don't care, even if you're in a red state, people give a shit about clean water, you know?
Mhm.
So there you go. What a show.
Yeah, I'm telling you, Sandy, that's a head full, you know. I
Yes. I
mean,
hope you're all
I
okay
guess
out there.
I guess that also, let's keep a really big picture on this. This planet is 4.5 billion years old, I guess, and it's really only supported life for the last several 100 million years. It
300,000
took
years.
3.5 billion years to go from, a molten ball of iron and God knows what else our Earth is, into something that's beautiful and habitable, just like this. And we've done it to ourselves. And I don't know. I mean, it's kind of, in a weird way, it's sort of significant that we are alive and witnessing this happen right now,
We
right
are.
before our eyes. I mean, for thousands of years, it's been really, really popular, this gig of, proclaiming the end of the world. I mean, it's been happening for thousands of years. People always think that they're the ones, proclaiming the end of the world and the world is ending. Well, I think actually in this instance it's true. And we'll just have to, take it moment by moment.
Moment
There's
by
no.
moment. And Jean
Yeah.
said it again, end animal agriculture. And I can't agree more. Factory farming, animal agriculture, it's horrible. So if you want to get involved in something, get involved with your local, animal, what, PETA? I don't know who it is that does it locally where you live. There's so many things, and then you
Mhm.
don't have to just wallow in the sea of inaction and be that doomer that fucking ass Michael Mann calls us, inactivists. Bullshit. We are completely
It's
not
such a mess.
inactivists. So I guess I had to end with that.
There you go.
All right. You Why don't you bring up the rear, baby? Thank you, everybody.
Oh, I don't know. I kind of felt like I brought up the caboose
All
already, but
right.
guys, I
You
mean, we've
did.
talked a lot.
All
We've
right.
talked a lot. Let's just kind of summarize it very quickly here. You know, the storm level is already here in 2022. This is something they didn't predict until 2080. So there's that, right? The fjords are belching methane, right? So
Yeah.
there's that. Also, if the ice melts in the Arctic, do trees burn in California? Yes. So there's that. And the Middle East sandstorm, it's just going to become like one big sandstorm all the time. And then Umair Haig, what do you call the feeling of a dying planet? Planet sick.
Planet
It's
sick.
just Amazing.
All right, guys. Like,
I hope you're all feeling
subscribe.
well.
Yeah, right. Okay, actually, what do I have that we could? Okay, you're all feeling well. Boom. All right, we're leaving. Buy us a coffee. Like and subscribe. Send me your email address. I mean your address for your coffee cup. We'll do our little part for consumerism and technology for the show. We're here. What the fuck? That's the way it is. Love you, Jennifer. I love you. I can't believe we did two. We did shows Wednesday and today. It was great.
And don't forget, we did State of the Planet last Sunday, so we've
That's
just been
right.
doing shows.
Woo
Lots of
boy!
shows.
That's why I guess I couldn't do this weekend. I was like dying, dying. So we will say goodbye with our little kitties. All right. Mwah. Thank you guys for all your donations.
Rich.